For your information, there's a lot more to ogres than people think.
Example?
Example? Okay, ogres are like onions.
Shrek is an onion, both the character and the movie. Welcome to Magnum Opus, where we're going to be answering some of the biggest Shrek questions. Why was it so successful? What are the hidden meanings? And what happens when you exclusively eat onions for a week? There's one series in my life that has reigned over all for the longest, and that's... Hi. I've been a fan of this movie since I walked into the... Okay, actually I got too scared. We went to see Cats vs. Dogs, but then I watched it again on VHS, and I've been a fan ever since. So please, I insist, I'll pay for dinner. But okay. Unknown to many, Shrek was actually based on a picture book by William Steig in 1990. The only other green thing invented in the 90s was... Shrek's production is ultimately extremely layered. It's essentially the story of how DreamWorks, as you know it today, became the company it is. Founded by Spielberg, Katzenberg, and Geffen, Katzenberg actually worked at Disney and Paramount with him, who was the CEO of Disney. And to make a long story short, Katzenberg was not the biggest fan of Eisner or Disney. Felt like he should have deserved a lot more credit for all of its success. So, he resigned and started DreamWorks. And he helped work on big things like Little Mormon and Booty on the Beat. Shrek was the story of a growing company, tons of revisions, and an ever-changing vision. We had a version with Chris Farley being the ogre, one where Shrek lived in a dump outside the city, and one where they considered... And then there are the writers. They came from stuff like Aladdin, Beavis and Butthead, and Alf. You know, actually that kind of checks out. This movie has some meat on its bones, or should I say, layers on its heart. So, what was it about Shrek, and why do I consider it a magnum opus? And an onion. So, okay, if the movie is an onion, what is the first layer? They stink?
Yes. No.
Ah, the outer tunic. Not edible. And what better way than watching this the way I used to, on VHS. VHSs were so weird back in the day. I feel like with each new distribution, they put new commercials in each of them, so you never quite know what you're gonna get. They'd have these bonus animations that you could not find anywhere else except on these VHSs.
What are you doing in my swamp? We're here to check out other movies. Play the movie. Yeah.
So after some horse trailer, we get to the movie. The iconic storybook opening. This sets the tone for the entire movie. Initially, it sets up your expectations for a contemporary fairy tale, much like how Aladdin set up the frame for the whole story. Except...
Yeah. Like that's ever gonna happen.
Enter Shrek, our main character wiping his ass with the tropes of Walt Disney. You think this movie was a revenge piece? One thing that was super important about Shrek was establishing the tone instantly. The setup, followed by the subversion, is perfect. Not to mention the expressive animation, the witty dialogue, the butt rock. I don't think people realize how much they cover in the opening 20 minutes, and how essential that was to the whole movie. First, we see Shrek's character, who he actually is, and then how the villagers treat him. Then we follow up with Donkey in this world's take on fairy tale creatures. Honestly, very true. Real people, they just sell anything to make an extra buck. Instead of it being Charizard cards, it's fucking Pinocchio. But then anyways, Shrek and Donkey's relationship is set up, the main motivation is set out, they head on their quest, boom, the main villain has a short appearance, his motivation is made clear, and then Shrek accepts the quest. Like the movie was really polished, every joke, animation, it's like nothing takes an off day. Look at Shrek awkwardly try to explain that onions have layers like ogres, and he rolls his eyes when he starts to get a little too vulnerable and Donkey's just not getting it. And any scene with just Shrek and Donkey, I think they really made the film what it is. Like, they don't need to tell you Donkey is annoying or stupid. Shrek's face will tell you that a million times. And similarly, you don't need them to tell you that Shrek isn't this horrible ogre. I mean, the fact that he just lets Donkey follow him, it's evidence enough. Plus, I mean, come on, you can tell that he kinda likes having Donkey around, even if he does annoy him.
Cool.
Oh my god, is Shrek just a tsundere?
ドンケ、あなたはバカですか?
I know this movie was popular worldwide, but I have trouble thinking about how it was translated.
All right, you're going the right way for a smack bottom.
A smart bottom?
Smack bottom.
A smack bottom?
Smack bottom.
Oh, a smacked bottom, because he's gonna spank him if he keeps going? I get it. That was in Austin Powers.
You're going the right way for a smack bottom, and I don't care who knows it.
Like, I don't know how well these characters could have been played in translation. There are so many English euphemisms and phrasings that were essential to the dialogue of these two, and I don't know, it probably wasn't as strong. So, ultimately, in conclusion, by all accounts, in summary, in short, don't at me, Shrek is a funny movie. I did it, I solved the movie. And it's the first half of the movie that really grips the audience. Your characters are alive, the plot they're in just keeps on moving. We have a dating game reference, pop culture musical references. It's a Small World, an entire multi-man melee.
How about him? Ready, go! Come on! Can't we just settle this over a pint?
I mean, that's how it felt. The thing is, after this, they go on a quest into a castle inside a volcano.
Look! This is it, Luigi.
To save a princess from a dragon. This shit was so epic as a kid. I literally only wanted a game of Shrek because I wanted to go in this castle and explore it. Wait, there was a Shrek game? I gotta see it! There's no music. There's nothing. What the Whoa! Alright. Shrek's whole thing. Ogres are like onions. Don't judge a book by its cover. Better out than in. Maybe the inn is good.
Use the C stick to change your view. Press the Z button to get a closer look. Okay, meet me at the ogre training pits.
But this was only the first layer. The first 20 minutes pretty much set up characters, world, and plot. Then, up to 40 minutes, the adventure ensues. An epic battle, castle escape. And then, they save the princess. It's only halfway through when Princess Fiona slides down the mountain that the real movie begins.
An ogre.
I mean, that phase, it doesn't last too long. But it pretty much says everything.
Oh, this is all wrong.
The first layer is you can kind of see through it, but it's mostly very hard to break through because it's protecting the delicate insides. Shrek has a lot of hidden meanings. First of them is Katzenberg's obvious quibbling hate for Disney. Eisner, Farquad. Eisner, Farquad. A lot of corporate Disney was based in Duloc, and the name Farquad is just Farquad. Farquad, 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 Farquad. And the references continue with Duloc representing Disneyland. I mean, it's a small world being changed to It's a Perfect Place. They even needed to consult Disney lawyers to make sure this shit could fly without them going to Disney hell. But I think it's deeper than just cheap revenge-filled references. Shrek, as a whole, is a commentary on the unrealistic contemporary fairy tale tropes versus how real people actually feel and act. This is a Shrek review. Remember how I said that the movie sets up and introduces so much in just a few short scenes? The same is true here with the main story mechanics of this movie. Essentially it tells us several things about the adventure we're going on. It's actually the first instance of a dichotomy between Shrek and society. Coupled with ripping out the page, it's directly showing his feelings about conforming to this impossibly high standard and how he wipes his ass with it. This dichotomy is pretty common in literary studies. An us versus them, an old versus new. Shrek and the fairy tale creatures versus Duloc, the villagers, Farquad, society.
You and the rest of that fairy tale trash poisoning my perfect world.
This is what is known as othering. Basically, the predictable, chiseled, and homogenized Duloc versus those that the leader of a society deems unruly. Wow, I wonder if this is in the real world. Mamma mia, Mario! I mean, it's so on the nose. Don't make way, stay in line, and we'll get along fine? Or what? And this is why the first layer is so important. It establishes the character of Shrek, society's view of him, and why that's kind of bullshit. Shrek's first montage establishes how not threatening he is. He's more or less every bachelor in his 20s. Having a martini alone, eating dinner alone, having a bath alone. But it's the villagers that project their image of society and him onto him, and that's why he acts the way he does. Being called these names and treated in this way is internalized by him, and it becomes his truth, even if it isn't. Luckily, however, the most important character in the movie saves Shrek from his shadows of doubt. Alright. Here we go. Donkey is the most important character in this movie. He is the deus ex machina. Him and Shrek's first scene demonstrate he's blissfully ignorant to the structures of society, and he treats Shrek based on the actions he's done upon him. He doesn't understand this mask that Shrek's been forced to wear his whole life, and he just treats him as a person. In a way, Donkey is a pillar of truth. The wings of rebellion that breaketh thy chains of captivity. Whew, these onions are hitting different. All of these dynamics of Shrek, Donkey, and the society are set up within the story's first layer. You just kind of don't notice because it's riddled with comedy.
You don't know what it's like to be considered a freak. Well, maybe you do.
And interestingly, it's the shadow of a Disney story. Maybe in a Disney movie, like Farquad would be wanting Fiona because she has like some powers in her blood that if he harnessed it, he would turn into a god. But in reality, Farquad wants a trophy wife because of his fragile masculinity. Oops, did I say that? I demonstrated what the first 40 minutes establish, but here's when it all gets into a subversion sandwich. And I mean, these two faces, really, this is the embodiment of Shrek's character. The face on the right, that stays like that for a few frames, and then it goes back to his more happier demeanor, but it shows just how much of a mask Shrek is wearing the whole movie. Put yourself in Shrek's shoes. She's what Farquad, or society, deems as the most valuable. Him and Donkey, or at least to him, they're trash. So, when Fiona is rescued by Shrek, she values him like no other. Like the pinnacle of society. Whoa! This is similar to how when Donkey was rescued by Shrek, he saw him for who he was. She values Shrek based on his actions.
Yes.
Except when she realizes that he's an ogre. And oh my god, this face. Oh, the aversion of the eyes. Like, I don't think there's a way you could really verbalize this in the way that this face hurts me. And she does try and look back at Shrek, but it's like a wince. It's like forcing herself to look in his direction. Being like, it's not so bad. Like, oh my goodness. But her being repulsed by Shrek, interestingly, only comes from the fact that she's repulsed by a part of herself. I don't want to spoil this for you, but... yeah, I know, she gave it away when she was singing the Bolero Fire. Okay, so Fiona is repulsed with being an ogre because society would disown her. Thus, she basically projects what society wants on Shrek because all she ever wanted was to be saved by a Prince Charming because...
only my true love's kiss can break the spell.
Literally, Fiona, she will be made more valuable by a man only by a kiss, and it will rid her of all of the traits about herself that she hates. Yo, you want a hit of this onion? This is the intersection between all of these weird dynamics. Shrek is othered, and he has to act in this way society expects of him, instead of who he actually is. Farquad only sees value in himself as long as he has a princess kissing his small little kid's gap feet. And Fiona is kind of trapped in the middle here. First, she wants what Farquad wants, but then she realizes that, no. And the magic of the movie happens.
Who you trying to keep out? Just tell me that, Shrek. Who?
Everyone, okay?
You know, real talk, this scene with Shrek, it's something I've always internalized too, because there are just points in my life where I've felt the exact same.
They judge me before they even know me. That's why I'm better off alone.
It's probably this scene that attached people to the film, and I think is the root of this movie's heart.
It's because that the entire movie up until this point set up Shrek. We saw how he actually was. We saw him 1v15 a bunch of knights, save a princess from a dragon, and yet we also saw him get rejected again and again. So him erupting here, it was earned. And everything following this doesn't feel like a cop-out or just the story pushing two characters together, because Shrek is someone we can all sort of feel for. And then the romance happens, and that takes about 10 minutes.
The princess here was just...
Yeah, it's fast, but I mean, come on. If we were Fiona, wouldn't we love Shrek too? I love Shrek too.
Shrek and Fiona's social link is at level 7, Shrek's knowledge isn't at level 5 yet, so he can't progress it, and he's about to go back a rank. But back up. Remember how I said Donkey was literally the god character in this movie?
Here he goes.
Well, he discovers Fiona's secret and is sort of the proxy for us as the audience. Except instead of physically being able to be like, yo, there's a misunderstanding, he's just too stupid. Like, oh my god, this is torture.
And the worst is they are so close to being on the same page. Fiona comes out, and then this happens.
There's something I want.
Well, the whole misunderstanding portion ultimately just plays on both Shrek and Fiona's insecurity with themselves. Like, if Shrek wasn't so caught up with him being insecure about himself, he would have heard what she said and been like, no, that's wrong. It's stupid to see, but you know what's more canonically strong than a dragon, than a group of merry men, than Farquad's army?
Yes, this was very annoying as a kid. But looking back, it's kind of accurate. Shrek, after being vulnerable, was so used to being rejected over and over again. So in this circumstance, when he heard this, he thought the most negative thing. And he didn't even give a chance for him to be accepted. He decided for himself that he was being rejected, got all tough again, and just didn't let himself be vulnerable because he didn't want to get hurt. Like... Oh man, if only there was some godly intervention to push the story forward.
Well, hallelujah, we have Donkey. While Shrek and Fiona have their dumb asses being stupid fucking idiots, Donkey's like, what the fuck? What happened? What are you guys being stupid for? Every character in this movie calls him an idiot.
Stubborn jackass! Smelly ogre!
But in reality, he exists outside the conventions of society. He's the most powerful character in the Shrek lore. Donkey is the symbol of truth.
Are onions sativa or indica?
That's sort of why I don't really love what they did with Donkey in the newer movies. He's just comic relief. He serves no purpose to some of the later movies' plots. Like, they take a reference like, I'm eating waffles, and then they go and make it his whole character. I hate this shit. But really, he was important. His friendship with Shrek was valuable. Fuck! It's a Shrek review! But this emotional scene is where Donkey really pushes Shrek to encounter his stupid, irrational, insecure thoughts, and him and Donkey reach level 10. Finally allowing himself to be vulnerable ultimately makes him the strongest he's been the whole movie. The heroes and villains team up and they lead an assault on Farquad's palace. And Shrek, he puts it all on the line. In retrospect, I really wish this scene was more epic like the end of Shrek 2, but I mean, it's fine, we were trying to finish the movie anyways. But Shrek, after upthrowing Donkey, dash attack cancels into the chapel. Objection! The final showdown. This scene physically makes Shrek stand out in the society that's rejected him his whole life. And this shot alone, it summarizes Shrek's entire journey as a character. Like earlier in the movie, this is the last situation he'd want to be in. Standing out, being vulnerable in front of so many people who caused him pain. It says so much. You either live your life a lie in a swamp or give truth a shot, which, in turn, gives other people the strength to live their truth. And Farquad being sort of a weak villain sort of fits because in this movie, while he wasn't too prevalent, it's mostly the world that's against Shrek. And really, Shrek himself. But, I mean, it still wasn't easy. Literally, everything Shrek feared happened. Fiona revealed herself and they tried to kill her. Of course, the symbol of truth shows up at the last second to save everybody from the shackles of lies. Literally conquering Society's main threat in a matter of seconds, with the bullshit nonsense fairy tale creatures he was trying to get rid of. And that's a fucking movie, babies and germs! And the ending scene, there's no way you can't, like, it's such a cathartic scene for all of the characters to just be enjoying themselves without a fear of how they look. God, I love it. The funny thing about an onion is, oh well, outwardly it's not as romanticized or as popular or as cute as the other vegetables. Onions are probably one of the most diverse and versatile vegetables. You can throw it in a sandwich, in a salad, on a pizza, you can dice them, have them as rings, mince them, caramelize them, or make it into a base for your soup. Yet the shallow parts of us only see an onion for its outwardly smelly traits. But those who appreciate it know it's way more than something that's smelly and makes you cry. Shrek the movie is also extremely versatile, and I believe its many layers all let people enjoy it and perceive it in the way that was best for them. Many people online just cherish and love this movie endlessly. My first introduction to weird online Shrek stuff was Shrek-chan creating this Shrek is love, Shrek is life phenomenon, well before there were videos on it. But now it's grown into something far greater with such a huge culture. It is just immensely impressive. Maybe it's just a convenient allegory, but Shrek's construction and existence in the minds of viewers resembles that of an onion. A heavily layered, versatile, and tasty onion, being cut up and eaten in many diverse different ways. This series' magnum opus aims to look back on some of the greatest creations by some of the greatest creators. That for this one is sort of up for debate. I'm not quite sure about this guy. But in many ways, Shrek's many layers come from the journey this movie went on. From Spielberg buying the rights, to the many who went to direct Shrek and write it, from what, 1994 to 2000? To what we have now? It wasn't the talents of just one person. It was from many people. And some of them had a lot of beef with Disney. And it really paid off. This movie saved DreamWorks Animation and made it the studio you know it as today. But not only did it give us that, Shrek gave us motherfucking Shrek 2, the best movie on the goddamn planet. This has been Magnum Opus on Shrek. And if I learned anything, it's that there's actually a second side effect to exclusively eating onion. Onions were the ultimate taboo?